Welcome to Knowing Him. This is Steve Danielson.
And this is Angie Danielson.
Join us each week as we explore the hymns of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and share our feelings, insights, and reflections about how each one brings us closer to Jesus Christ.
Enjoy your favorites and find some undiscovered gems in our journey to knowing Him.
Welcome, podcast landers, to another episode of Knowing Him. I'm your host, Steve Danielson, with my co-host that I was to describe as a non-wayfaring woman of light.
What?
My beautiful wife, Angie. Angie, I would describe you as non-wayfaring because you are always sure and steadfast in the gospel.
Thanks.
I'm, of course, describing Angie that way because today we're talking about hymn 29, A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief. So we have a lot to say about this hymn, not only about who wrote it, the words and the music, but also about how it fits into church history. This is sort of an important hymn in the annals of church history, and so we're going to share a little bit of that as we go about it today. The first thing I want to actually talk about, though, is sort of how Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief is laid out. It's sort of a unique hymn in that it's telling a story. We don't have many hymns that tell a story from beginning to end. But this is laid out in 7 verses, so it's not often completely sung in church.
Yeah, which is always disappointing because it is telling a story. So
Yeah.
you get to the end of the 3rd verse, and you're like, oh, wait, we need to complete this.
Right, so in our hymn book, we have the first 3 verses in with the music, and then the other 4 verses are sort of off to the side, just here are the words, and if you want to do them, here they are. But if you get to the end of the 3rd verse, then you're in the middle of the story, and you don't quite finish it. So I'm just going to quickly just sort of summarize what's happening. So in the first verse, I guess you call the hero of the story, the main character, sees a stranger who he sees him frequently. You know, it's someone that he has seen frequently, always seems to be in need, and he asks him for help. And so he said, I can't answer no. I have to help this person. He didn't tell me his name, didn't say where he came from. He just needed help, and so I decided to help. So in the 2nd verse, he said, you know, once when I was preparing a meal, suddenly there was a knock on my door, and there was this person, this stranger who needed my help. And I invited him in. I gave him food, and just watching him eat made my food even that much more sweet. And then the 3rd verse, I spied him where a fountain burst, is what it says. So I saw that he needed something to drink, and so I gave him stuff to drink. In the 4th verse, there was a storm outside, and the stranger appeared again, and he invited him in, took care of him in his house. In the 5th verse, he saw him beaten on the side of the road and bound up his wounds and took care of him, brought him back to health. And then in the 6th verse, he says the next time he saw this stranger, he was in prison, condemned to die. And the stranger asked him, will you die for me? And it says, the flesh was weak, my blood ran chill, but my free spirit cried, I will. And then I'm going to read the 7th verse. Then in a moment to my view, the stranger started from disguise. The tokens in his hands I knew. The Savior stood before mine eyes. He spake, and my poor name he named. Of me thou hast not been ashamed. These deeds shall thy memorial be. Fear not, thou didst them unto me. So
powerful.
It's so wonderful. And if you stop at the 3rd verse, you miss sort of the punchline of the song. You miss the moral of the story. And of course, this all goes back to a scripture in Matthew. And I'd like to turn there real quick. So this is in Matthew chapter 25. And this is something that Jesus is teaching his disciples. So this is Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 40. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations. And he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on the right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on the right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, and inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we the sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. So this hymn, A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief, is sort of the answer to these questions. When did we see you naked, or hungry, or thirsty, or when did we take you in? And it's any time you're helping someone in need, that's helping the Savior. That's helping the Lord. And that's sort of where the basis of this hymn came from. So let's talk about our poet. So this was text by James Montgomery, born in 1771, died in 1854. And Angie, I know you've got some information about him pulled up. What can you tell us about James Montgomery?
Well, it says that his parents were Moravian, which I thought was interesting. But they died when they were on a mission in the West Indies. And it sounds like he was strongly religious. I don't think he stuck with the Moravian views, but he had some very strong religious views, and also for different things that were happening in the world. He saw injustices like slavery and the way boy chimney sweeps were treated, and he fought against these things. I guess he was an activist, he would go out and fight against these different things, which I thought was pretty cool. It even says he fought against lottery.
So not only an activist, though, but he was also quite the poet,
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. So he wrote at least 400 hymns.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few. I can't remember if he had other hymns in our hymn book. Do you remember?
He had just a couple, yeah. Hold on, let me get the book here. So, in addition to A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief, he also has The Lord is My Shepherd.
Oh, that's right.
Which is a pretty famous one there.
Yeah.
Also, Prayers the Soul's Sincere Desire.
Oh, that's
another
a pretty one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he also is the author of the well-known Christmas hymn, Angels from the Realms of Glory.
Yeah, which lots of people know that song, so that's pretty cool.
So it's not in our hymn book, but a well-known Christmas hymn.
Yeah.
We stalled out there for a second. Okay. We're gonna
I was just looking over these notes about him. It was saying here that he wrote a song called The Fall of the Bastille, talking about the war in France, and I guess he wrote it in a way that was kind of against the government or whatever at the time, and so he was put in jail for that. So I thought that was interesting. He says he was imprisoned twice, but once was for writing that song.
So his nationality was British, yeah? Wasn't he English?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was born in Scotland, actually, but died in England.
Yeah, so this text, originally called The Stranger, was first set to music by George Coles. George Coles, born 1792, died 1858. Now, the tune that George Coles wrote, George Cole actually called Duane Street. Named it after one of the churches where he preached. This street was called Duane Street, and so that's what he called the name of this tune. It has similarities to the tune that we know, but it is, slightly different. It's in 4/4. I'm gonna sing this, and I don't have it with the words. I mean, I guess I could put it in, but the tune that I saw, or the words that I saw with it most, are "How shall the young direct their way." That was the tune or the words I saw most often with this tune. So here's the hymn as I found it. How shall the young direct their way? What light shall be their perfect guide? Your word, O Lord, will safely lead, if in its wisdom they confide. Sincerely I have sought you, Lord. Oh, let me not from you depart. To know your will and keep from sin, your word I cherish in my heart.
Interesting. So I can hear a few of the little parts in Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief, but then there's enough that's different that makes you think, oh, is that the same song?
Yeah. So it's interesting because both James Montgomery and George Coles are British. And so, having that connection there is going to come into play a little bit later. But George Coles, I believe, wrote this after he had immigrated to America. I mean, I guess I could put the words in, or at least the beginning of it. A poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed. Well, let me try that again. It's hard to do this. A poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed me on my way, who sued so humbly for relief that I could never answer nay.
So it works.
Yeah, it works, and we could actually probably do that with many of the tunes in our hymn book that fit the, I believe it's 8888D meter.
Whatever that means.
We haven't really talked about it. In the back of our hymn book, there is a meters section, and songs that have the same meter, talking more about text meter, can be interchanged in any
tunes.
song that matches that same meter. So you could interchange words to different tunes, which is sort of what they were doing with the old hymn book before music was put in the hymn book as well. They would say, here's the meter.
I noticed this hymn you were just singing is 4/4, but Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief is 6/8. So that doesn't really matter, like with the meter.
No, as long as the text meter is the same, then it can be interchanged.
Interesting.
Yeah. So how shall the young direct their way could be plugged into the tune we know for Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of which, the tune for Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief, as we have in our hymn book, is related to this. It is definitely related to Duane Street, but in our hymn book it is listed as George Coles altered, because it has been altered. So let's talk about some of that alteration. And for that alteration, we're going to sort of delve a little bit into some of the history of our church, especially surrounding John Taylor. So John Taylor was he was from England. He had moved to Canada, and while he was in Canada, he met a missionary named Parley P. Pratt, and was impressed with the teachings of Parley P. Pratt. Elder Pratt was able to answer a lot of his questions, and he decided that he was going to join the church. And so he joined the church in Canada, and eventually came down to Missouri, and he was called into the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. So just as Jesus had apostles on the earth when he was on the earth, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also has apostles that serve in as leadership for the church. Now we have to remember, a lot of these early apostles, they were very young in the church. These were not people that had been around for a long time, and there was people bringing traditions from other faiths, and when they're compiling hymn books, they're using tunes that they know and hymns that they know, bringing them into this new faith. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, John Taylor was in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, and so he was very well acquainted with Joseph Smith and Joseph Smith's brother Hiram Smith. And in 1844, Joseph Smith and Hiram were arrested and taken to Carthage, Illinois. 20 miles or so outside of Nauvoo, Illinois. And they were held in prison there on trumped-up charges of treason. Now, the jail at the time was not as we think of jail today. It was a very come-and-go affair. People could come visit them and stay with them.
It was like a house.
Yeah. It was a house. The jailer lived down below and had some prison cells up above. It was a very different sort of situation.
Yeah, I think for part of the time they were in a jail cell, but part of the time they were just like in a bedroom.
Yeah.
So it didn't even seem like jail.
Yeah, they were in jail. They were kept there, but the jailer was sort of kind to them and allowed them this space to move around in. They weren't kept in the dungeon or anything like that.
So John Taylor, what does he have to do with that situation?
So John Taylor was acting as lawyer for them. He was sort of their advocate. And so he was with them in the jail on the day of the martyrdom, the day that Joseph and Hiram were killed. And before they were killed, as the afternoon was growing on, John Taylor sang "A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief." And he described this tune as plaintive and pathetic. It sort of matched the gloom of the situation that they were in.
And it sounds like, from everything I read, that he was a pretty good singer.
Yeah.
So he was well known for singing.
And he had probably a wonderful British accent as well.
A beautiful voice.
Yeah, had a beautiful voice. And when he was finished, Hiram asked him if he would sing it again. And John Taylor said, "I don't really feel like singing again." And Hiram said, "Well, just get started and you'll get the feel of it." Now, what we learned in our research, we hadn't heard this before, but apparently this news has been out for a while. In 2008, there was a Taylor descendant who came across some notes that the tune that John Taylor sang is actually slightly altered from the version that we know.
So he didn't sing it exactly like we have it.
Not exactly like we have it. Still based on Duane Street. Still based on that George Cole's song, but slightly different. And so...
Do you have a copy of that?
I do, yeah. So this was brought to light by Jeffrey N. Walker. And if you want to read his article about it, this is on the Religious Studies Center site through BYU, so rsc.byu.edu. There's a great article about this, John Taylor, Beyond a Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief. Talks about John Taylor's history more than we're going into it here. And then it does go into the song as well. And actually... has a transcription of the way that John Taylor would have sung this. So 40 years after the events of the martyrdom, Ebenezer Beasley, who was asked by John Taylor to head up the committee to create a hymn book, the first one that would actually have music in it, he asked John Taylor to sing it the way that he had sung it in Carthage jail. So he sang it, Ebenezer Beasley notated it out, and so we have a copy of Ebenezer Beasley's notation of the way John Taylor sang it. And then Ebenezer Beasley took that and wrote a new arrangement, and that's the one that we have in our hymn book, sort of taking out some of the ornamentations, cleaning up some, not necessarily cleaning up, but, changing it into more of a congregational type hymn. So still based on Duane Street, but altered, as mentioned. And similar to the way John Taylor sang it, but not exactly. So I'm going to sing a little bit here of how John Taylor would have actually sung it. A poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed me on my way, who sued so humbly for relief that I could never answer nay. I had no power to ask his name, whither he went or whence he came. Yet there was something in his eye, I that won my love, I knew not why.
That's
So
nice too.
it is. It has a little bit more of a sort of an Irish sort of lilt to it. It's got a little bit more ornamentation, and very likely John Taylor ornamented a little bit more than what I just did, as would have been the style at the time for solo singers. And there have been people that have put this into harmonies. I'm looking at an arrangement here from Kurt Kameyer. I've got another one here from Michael Young. So some people have taken this arrangement from John Taylor and have made their own arrangements from it. It's really a nice hymn. It's interesting though. Some of the things that we were reading are like, oh, John Taylor's hymn is so much more upbeat than the one we have in our hymn book, and yet the way John Taylor always described it was almost
sad
pathetic, sad, plaintive. So I don't think he was singing it fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, a poor wayfaring man of grief hath off. You could make it a quick song, but I don't think that's how John Taylor was singing it with the
Probably
way
not.
that he described it.
Especially in that moment.
Yeah, especially in that moment when he said they were just feeling the gloom and the oppression. And it wasn't long after he finished singing it the second time that the mob came in and murdered Joseph and Hiram in front of him. Yeah. And John Taylor himself took 4 balls, 4 musket balls. I mean, that was a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
And
he was luckily saved, blessed. And saved his life was saved.
And we hold this song in such a tender spot because of this moment in Carthage jail. And when you go to Carthage jail, if you ever get the chance to go there, it's hard to sit there without thinking about John Taylor singing this song. But if you think about how John Taylor probably thought about the song, it was probably hard for him to sing it.
Yeah.
He probably didn't have the most fond memories of it because of these traumatic experiences surrounding it. I mean, it had to have been hard remembering his friends gunned down right in front of him. That had to have been so very, very hard.
So I thought it was interesting in this article from the BYU, what Religious Studies Center, it says, we may never know if John Taylor really liked a poor wayfaring man of grief after the martyrdom. Like you said, it was a traumatic experience. To Latter-day Saints, it is held in reverence as a memorial to the tragic events at Carthage jail. Clearly, President Taylor understood the historic importance of the song, as he had Beasley document his version. Yet Taylor later penned his own hymn in memory of the martyrdom, entitled, "Oh, Give Me Back My Prophet Dear." And I wanted to read those words here, because I thought it was beautiful as well. And I'm not sure where this hymn is found. It's not in our hymn book now. I wonder if it's in one of the older hymn books. Says, "Oh, give me back my prophet dear and patriarch, oh, give them back, the saints of latter days to cheer and lead them in the gospel track. But oh, they're gone from my embrace, from earthly scenes their spirits fled. 2 of the best of Adam's race now lie entombed among the dead. Ye men of wisdom, tell me why no guilt, no crime in them were found. Their blood doth now so loudly cry from prison walls and Carthage ground. Your tongues are mute, but pray attend the secret I will now relate, why those whom God to earth did lead have met the suffering martyr's fate. It is because they strove to gain beyond the grave a heaven of bliss, because they made the gospel plain and led the saints to righteousness. It is because God called them forth and led them by his own right hand, Christ coming to proclaim on earth and gather Israel to their land. It is because the priests of Baal were desperate their craft to save, and when they saw it doomed to fall, they sent the prophets to their grave. Like scenes the ancient prophets saw, like these the ancient prophets fell, until the resurrection dawn, prophet and patriarch, farewell." That's beautiful.
So I was just looking at the footnote in that article while you were reading that, and it said Taylor published this hymn in the Times and Seasons on August 1st, 1845. And then I saw that it was also published in the 1927 hymn book as hymn 193. So perhaps I'll record that as a little bonus episode for us later. I won't do it right now, but if you have access to the 1927 hymn book, 193 is where "Oh, Give Me Back My Prophet Dear" is located.
I knew the name of it sounded familiar, so.
Okay, well, that sort of takes us through the history of this song. I think we're ready to sing this.
Yeah.
So we're going to sing all 7 verses, so buckle up, because this is a great song. A poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed me on my way, who sued so humbly for relief that I could never answer nay. I had not power to ask his name, whereto he went or whence he came. Yet there was something in his eye that won my love, I knew not why. Once when my scanty meal was spread, he entered, not a word he spake, just perishing for want of bread. I gave him all, he blessed it break, and ate, but gave me part again. Mine was an angel's portion then. For while I fed with eager haste, the crust was manna to my taste. I spied him where a fountain burst, clear from the rock his strength was gone. The heedless water mocked his thirst. He heard it, saw it hurrying on. I ran and raised the sufferer up. Thrice from the stream he drained my cup, dipped and returned it running o'er. I drank and never thirsted more. 'Twas night, the floods were out, it blew a winter hurricane aloof. I heard his voice abroad and flew to bid him welcome to my roof. I warmed and clothed and cheered my guest, and laid him on my couch to rest. Then made the earth my bed, and seemed in Eden's garden while I dreamed. Stripped, wounded, beaten nigh to death, I found him by the highway side. I roused his pulse, brought back his breath, revived his spirit, and supplied wine, oil, refreshment. He was healed. I had myself a wound concealed, but from that hour forgot the smart, and peace bound up my broken heart. In prison I saw him next condemned to meet a traitor's doom at morn. The tide of lying tongues I stemmed, and honored him mid shame and scorn. My friendship's utmost zeal to try, he asked if I for him would die. The flesh was weak, my blood ran chill, but my free spirit cried, I will. Then in a moment to my view the stranger started from disguise. The tokens in his hands I knew, the Savior stood before mine eyes. He spake, and my poor name he named. Of me thou hast not been ashamed. These deeds shall thy memorial be. Fear not, thou didst them unto me.
That's such a beautiful story. I love it.
So beautiful. I can't think of the last time I sang all the verses.
I can't either. I was singing that 6th and 7th verse. I just was thinking of John Taylor singing that in Carthage jail. I'm like thinking of Joseph Smith being, about to die, and he probably felt like he might die too because he almost did. So they were there and sang like they were willing to die for the Savior.
Well, friends, thank you for joining us today as we discussed the hymn, A Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief. As always, it is a joy to be with you and discuss the hymns. If you'd like to connect with us, please email us at knowinghim@gmail.com or visit our website, knowinghim.weebly.com. In the meantime, I hope you'll join us next week as we sing our way to knowing Him.